Guys, I am going to put a layer of universal white onto my tumbler. This has been sanded, washed, it's ready to go. I did tape off the edge so that I've got a nice clean layer there because this has a threaded lid to go on it. But I'm going to use my Hvlp airbrush in universal white. I've got it mixed, or I've got it poured into a baby food jar just for ease of use because I bought it in the quart. So it was easier to stir it up and pour it into a smaller container to use. Now because I've got such a large container here, I only fill it partway up. I don't want to fill it up here because you still do very thin layers, so you're not using a ton of product. So I just put a little bit in the bottom, and if I need more, I pour some more in. So back here is how you're going to adjust just how much comes out at once. You don't want it pulled too far back. It will put on a thick layer that shouldn't drip, but again, CrystaLac still needs to be that thin layer. So it's going to get a little bit louder because this does have a little bit of an air leak in it. So I'm going to do all my talking and then I'm going to hook up my air compressor. So I'm going to pull it back and do thin strokes one way, the other way, just kind of whatever's easiest. But yeah, one coat, normally I get a good layer of base coat on my tumblers. Alright, so right now I don't have it open. Alright, that's starting to show a little bit. You can see how pigmented this is. It is covering up the black. Alright, so that is giving a pretty good coverage right there. So that's where I'm going to go. Alright, so I started a second one in here while my air compressor was running because it was loud. So it looks like I did a lot of layers, but it was going on crazy thin. Like, wasn't even covering, so it was nowhere near that 2 pieces of notebook paper thick that I could go over it. Also, when it sounded like I constantly had my air going, it's a double trigger. So I wasn't spraying the entire time. Sometimes I was, but I wasn't constantly holding on. I was letting off as I went back and forth. All right, so now I'm going to show you if I mix some extreme protection into my bright tone. I'm not going to mix much of this up together because my universal white's not very thick. I mean, my last one I had issues with, but so I've got just a tiny little bit in there. Just a little bit in there. And squirt some of this in here. Stir it up together. So I've got maybe 1 part extreme protection to 2 or 3 parts universal white. Let's see where you can see that a little bit. So it is running off a little bit faster. So I will show you what that looks like through the airbrush as well. But remember, this one might need a second coat because of that extreme protection thinning it out. Or sorry, making it more translucent was what I meant. Alright, I'm going to stick my mask back on. Alright, so I ended up having a little bit of a clog in the last one, and that's part of why it was spraying out a little bit slower. But you can see it does spray out a little bit, almost faster, almost a little better coverage because it's not supposed to be crazy thick for in this airbrush. So that does actually help thin it out a little bit for the airbrush to be able to spray it a little bit better. Alright, so now in less than 10-15 minutes, I got 4 tumblers with perfect universal white base coat.